Hi, welcome. My name's Jessica and I'm from gardenfreshfoodie.com. I'm a plant-based chef and typically I teach cooking classes in the Buffalo area. I go anywhere where there's a table and an outlet like today. Sadly, I'm not doing any public classes right now because of COVID, but I hope soon we can get back. I do this kind of thing, though virtually I can see you, and I'm thrilled and honored that LMHF invited me to do that today. So right now we're going to make a dessert, a very healthy dessert. I teach people how to cook with whole foods, whole plant-based foods, and how to decrease processed sugar, oils, and unhealthy fats, just processed stuff in general. So today we're going to be using some beautiful, gorgeous in-season peaches. Right now peaches are plentiful, and apple season is coming right now. It's just starting to roll in. So you can actually make this dish with apples or pears or peaches, whatever it is that you want. So I'm making a chia seed pudding, which I'll do that in we'll do that second. We're going to poach some peaches. There's really no recipe for this. Basically, I'm just going to cut peaches and put them with some apple cider. You could use a hard cider if you wanted, or non-alcoholic. Today, we're going to do it with some apple cider. You could throw cinnamon stick in there. You can do some nutmeg. It can really be pretty much whatever you want, but we're using the liquid to soften the peaches and to just make them hot and delicious, almost like you're making the best part of the pie, the inside. That, to me, it's the inside that's the best part. So I'm just going to take my peaches. Now, the peaches I'm using this time of year are called freestone peaches, and that's different than a clingstone. Clingstone means when you cut it, when you bite into it, the pit is going to stay on the flesh. A freestone peach, those are called clingstone. This is a freestone. I cut it in half like an avocado, and I'm going to twist it just like that, just like I would an avocado. Opens itself up. You could just put the pudding straight inside the little bit like this so we could keep it whole, or we can make it into slices. So I'm actually probably going to keep them whole like that, and I take the pit right out, comes right out. So anybody who is familiar with making jams or canning peaches, this is the kind of peach you're familiar with, and you always want to wait until these come out because they're so much easier to deal with. If it is something that you wanted to do, if you wanted to can peaches or you wanted to make jam, what you need to do, though, I'm not going to do it today, is you would have to drop these into hot boiling water, and if you wanted to remove the skin, just like if you wanted to preserve a tomato, you treat it the same way. You put like an X in it and drop it into hot water. The skin will peel off within just a matter of seconds, probably about 30 seconds. Take that peach or tomato, drop it into a cold water bath, an ice water bath that shocks it. So basically you're doing something called blanching. Blanching can be done with any fruit or vegetable. It's a flash cooking method. You're just cooking it just enough so that it's not totally raw, but it still has a lot of the raw qualities to it, and the skin will just peel right off for you. It's such an easier way to preserve if you want the skins to come off. If you want to make baby food or anything like that, same thing. Drop it in the hot boiling water bath, pull it out, shock it so it stops it from cooking, and the peel will just come straight off for you. So I'm just going to take a couple of them, and I'm just twisting, and same method, the pit comes right out. Take any of the tops out. I'm going to get my stove started over here, and I'm not going to use any butter, no oils, none of that stuff. That's just going to give me fat calories and nothing else good. I don't need it. You're not going to miss it. This peach is a little bit bruised, but it's fine. It's totally fine. No worries there. And we're going to put the peaches into the pan, okay, just like that. And I'm going to shake up some apple cider, some local apple cider, and trying to support our local farmers. So you can go and buy a whole bunch of peaches. I just bought a huge bushel basket of peaches yesterday. I'm going to be making jam with those guys. You can turn these peaches upside down So if you want them to try to, you can actually keep moving them back and forth so they just kind of get some of the juice, the flavoring of that apple cider. And I'm going to let them simmer in this juice. Oh, it already smells good. I didn't even add anything really. I'm going to add some nutmeg. So you can add cinnamon or nutmeg. I'm finding that I actually have been having an allergic reaction to cinnamon. I'm so sad about that lately. But I am going to do, actually I'm looking for my zester. Here it is. Okay. All right, sorry, I'm back. So I am going to use what's called a microplane. A microplane is a handheld zester that's just safe instead of one of those box zesters where we oftentimes will peel off skin and nasty stuff like that. I'm going to use this zester, and I have a whole nutmeg clip. So this is whole nutmeg. Oftentimes when you get herbs that have already been ground up for you, they oxidize, they lose some of their oomph to the air. So if you are a person who's had spices in its cabinet since 1985, it's time you ditch those spices. So get rid of them. They should only actually last, I know it's expensive to say this, but like a year. And so if you're not going through spices quickly, if you're not turning them over, buy smaller quantities. A great space to do that is you can go and buy them in bulk. So just get a little bit at a time, because otherwise you're throwing them away and they're not going to have that much flavor to them, and you're going to need to add more. Okay, so I'm going to just zest in some of my nutmeg. And fresh nutmeg, like I said, different. It has so much more flavor than that pre-ground stuff. Pre-ground stuff is fine. It smells like the holidays right now. Smells like fall. It's coming. It's coming. I love fall, but I'm always sad it comes on the other side of it. Okay, so I'm just zesting in some nutmeg. Like I said, you could throw a cinnamon stick in there. I'm just avoiding that for myself, just because of a strange newfound allergy. And actually, I became plant-based because of trying to decrease, I was trying to decrease inflammation in my body. I have a disease called Raynaud's, which is a circulatory disease, and I was trying to mess around with my own diet to see what was causing my inflammation and my pain. And initially, for me, I found by decreasing things in my diet, I found that gluten was one of my triggers, one of my inflammatories. I don't believe that it is an inflammatory for everybody, but for me it is. So try, if you're having some arthritic conditions, if you're having different inflammatory diseases, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, the way I cook all helps to decrease inflammation. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, so beans, those are all anti-inflammatories. And but again, for some people, certain things do inflame their body, and we don't know that until we eliminate them and see how we feel. I found that by giving up dairy in my diet, got rid of my migraines. And so I was a chronic migraine sufferer until I gave up dairy. So today we're going to replace dairy in our pudding. We're going to be making a chia seed pudding. And chia seed is like chia, you know, that stuff that you used to put on the chia pet, okay? Who knew? I didn't know when I was growing up that stuff I was spreading all around the outside of like someone's head for growing hair was super nutritious. So these seeds are packed with omega-3 fatty acids, protein, and so that omega-3 fatty acid, that's the stuff that most people are like, oh, you gotta eat fish. Well, you don't have to eat fish. And fish often contains a lot of harmful, toxic, heavy metals like mercury. And so if you're trying to avoid that, or you're also someone who just doesn't like it, these are a great replacement for that kind of fat, which is a heart-healthy fat. Flaxseed is the same way. Our bodies can digest chia seed just like this. You don't have to grind it up or anything, but flaxseed does have to be ground up. You cannot digest whole flax. You'll just poop it right out and be very expensive poop. So we are going to put this, it's 1/3 of a cup to 1.5 cups of milk, and I'm using a plant-based milk. You can use any thing that you want, but I am using an unsweetened, and it's really important to not add random sugars into your diet. I'm using an unsweetened almond milk. So I'm going to do 1.5 cups to 1.5 cups of milk to 1/3 of a cup of chia seed. And I'm using the measuring increments on my blender. And you don't have to have a fancy blender like this is a Vitamix. You don't have to have something like that, but it does blend things up and makes things a little bit smoother. Oftentimes when I make this, I will use the white chia seed, and I do that just for an aesthetic purpose. I ran out of it, so I'm using the traditional black chia seed. And chia seed is very absorbent. It's very high in fiber, and in addition to protein and healthy fats, but it will plump up. It absorbs so much liquid. So if I actually just put this chia seed into this milk, put it in my fridge, it would become like a pudding type consistency, almost like a tapioca. And that's kind of what its texture is on its own. I don't have to blend it, nothing, okay? So, but I am going to blend it because for my sweetener for this is I'm going to use dates. So when we make desserts, we're oftentimes using like processed white sugar. That sugar spikes our blood sugar. Our body absorbs it very quickly. I'm a science teacher. And when we absorb that sugar, we spike our blood sugar levels, and then we crash, and then we surge, and then we crash, and we surge, and we crash. Any of you guys who are used to eating donuts or muffins or processed sugar cereals for breakfast, you know that when you eat that, or you're at work and there's a whole table full of junk, you eat it at 8, by 10:30 you're probably exhausted going for another cup of coffee, you've crashed. My students are the same way. They'll eat a very sugary breakfast, they will surge, and then they will crash. They'll have like no energy by second period. By the time they eat lunch, they're going to surge again because they're eating a bunch of junk again, and then they crash again by the period after lunch. And we go through this up and down cycle, and that is what leads to pre-diabetes. And eventually leads to type 2 diabetes. Type 2 and type 1 are completely different. Type 1 is an autoimmune condition that we cannot reverse, but type 2 diabetes is something you can absolutely reverse, and you do not need to fall into a type 2 diabetes life. That is completely controllable through diet and exercise, lifestyle. I'm going to add a little bit, a splash of vanilla. And again, I'm going to go back to that nutmeg again. I'm going to throw in some of my nutmeg because I'm using the same flavor. So if you were using cinnamon, you probably want to put some cinnamon in here. You can throw some ginger in here. You can really mess around with this. I also sometimes will make this chocolate. I have a recipe on my website, gardenfreshfoodie.com. And I have a chocolate version of this. And so that's always lovely. And I pair that with oranges. So orange and chocolate goes beautifully together around Valentine's Day or something special like that. Okay, back into the jar it goes. I love canning jars. They're great for storage. They show me what I have. No plastic contamination. They're also great for prepping for the week. I'm going to throw my dates in here. Like I was saying before I got off topic again. I always get off topic. And I soaked my dates in some water. They were just soaking for a little bit. And I squeezed the pit out. Like the peaches, dates have a pit, a hard pit. If you forget to take the pit out, you're going to make some nasty noise in your blender. And I soaked them because they're a dried fruit and they're shriveled up. So anytime you're working with a dried fruit, soak it in some water. It'll plump back up. It'll rehydrate. And be careful that you're not using a dried fruit that's coated in sugar. Make sure you're getting a natural dried fruit. I buy these in large quantities from a different store, and I'm not gonna, no store commercials here. And so I'm gonna, but it's a great way, try to buy things in bulk, try to buy things that you really can save a lot of money when you buy in bulk. You can buy as much as you want in bulk. You don't have to buy a lot in bulk, you just buy a small amount, but it's by the pound. Okay, so I'm squeezing out the dates and I'm gonna just drop them in. So it's 4 dates to our recipe here. If you don't have dates, you could throw dried prunes in here, you could throw raisins in here, you could throw dried cranberries in here. Just please make sure if you're doing those cranberries, you're not buying those ocean spray cranberries that are coated in sugar and oil. Try to make sure that you're getting naturally dried cranberries. They're usually oftentimes flavored, they're soaked with like a juice, like an apple juice or a grape juice, and they don't have added sugars to it, like processed sugars. I use the dates because unlike regular refined sugar, dates are going to cause a surge of sugar spike in your blood sugar, and that's because they have fiber. They're a whole food. Nothing processed here, just dehydrated, meaning they were dried at a probably at a low grade temperature, around 118 degrees to be considered live food, and the moisture was taken out of them. That's why sometimes we can sit there with dried fruit though, and we can overeat dried fruit because we're not triggered in the same way. It doesn't have the same level of fiber in water, has fiber, but it doesn't have the same water level to keep us as full. So be careful with over-consuming dried fruit, just like you should be careful with over-consuming nuts. Very high fat content, very healthy fats, but we can over-consume those kinds of things really easily and just shovel them in our mouth. So moderation on those things. Okay, so drop it in. The water that I had soaking in, awesome, save it. You can throw it in your oatmeal for the morning. It's something I eat every day, every morning. And so it's a little bit naturally sweetened now. So from the dates, soak it in the dates. I'm going to take a lemon and I'm going to zest the outside of it. I purchase organic lemons whenever I can because a lot of times I'm using them for zest. If you're not a person who's going to zest, I'm actually going to turn these peaches off because I think they're totally done. I know they're done when I put my knife in them, and they are knife soft, knife tender, but not falling apart. We're not making peach mush. We're not making baby food over here. Okay, this is kind of going to look like a little bit of a baby food and great to give to babies. So are these soft peaches. They can really eat them easily. So I'm going to take my lemon, and I'm going to take the outside of it, and I'm going to zest it, meaning I'm going to just rub my zester on the outside. But I was saying that anything that has a hard peel to it, like a thick outer layer, organic is not necessary because they're more expensive and you don't need to do that. I love this because all the zest holds right into here, and I don't have to like have it falling all over the place. It's right here. And it fell right on the table. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to take my finger and I'm just going to run my finger straight down. Just like that. And actually, I did rip my glove. I'm going to grab another glove. Okay. And just going to continue rubbing all around the outside of the lemon. I'm going to just use the zest of one lemon. And then save that lemon and use it for a lemon juice. Throw it as you're on top of a salad, as a salad dressing, because all you need really is a little bit of fresh citrus juice on top of a salad to make it delicious. Running my finger along there, or you can squeeze out the juice and save it for later. This thing is really sharp, so just be careful. It is cutting through my glove, so just gotta be careful there. Okay, and that's it. Okay, no salt, no added sodium or anything like that, just so the fresh, what the lemon does, it kind of wakes up the taste of it here. And you could use the outside part of a orange too. You can use orange zest, and that is what I do with my chocolate pudding. Now I'm just gonna turn it on. It's gonna be loud, or not, because it's not gonna work. There we go. And that's it. Okay, that's how easy it is to make it. It's going to sit for just a little bit, and as it sits, it will thicken. So give it about 5 minutes or so. Let it thicken. Throw it in the fridge. If you want to make it ahead of time, you can make this. It will last all week. So want to go ahead and double the recipe or triple the recipe. It's awesome for breakfast. It's awesome for a healthy snack. Great dessert. Do it however you want. It's an outstanding treat. It's got whole food fats, whole food sweetener to it, has added protein from the chia seed as well as the almond milk. Just a general overall awesome treat. So most of the time when we're eating a sweet treat, we always crave sugar, fat, and salt. Okay, so this is giving us sugar and fat, but not from any processed forms. If you're eating a Snicker bar, you're getting the sugar, the fat, and the salt, but you're getting none of the nutritional level that this dessert has. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some pudding into here. You can do one of two ways, however you like to serve. You could put the peach on the bottom and just put the pudding on the top. Maybe we'll do that. Or you could put the pudding on the bottom and the peach on top. Whatever you want. There's no rules. Okay? We keep saying there's no rules in COVID. Okay. So we're going to put a little bit of this. Again, I would let this sit maybe a little bit longer, and I'll just pour this on. So let's give it a little bit longer because it will sit and thicken. It just takes about 5 minutes for it to thicken up. But it really is a difference when I blend it. If some people don't love the texture of it unblended, it's a little too tapioca-esque to them. A little bit of that mouthfeel. If you blend it up, it kind of softens that, it refines it a little bit more, makes it a little bit smoother, and also it allowed us to use the dates as our sweetener. Let's say you didn't want to do a blender kind of thing, you could put a little bit of maple syrup in it, some honey, so you could use those as your sweeteners too. I just like using the whole food sweetener, and for that I do have to use the blender. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm just going to kind of pour it on there a little bit. But again, I would let it sit for a smidge longer. And here's my poached peach, okay? And then you could put like a mint leaf on there. So even actually just me talking here kind of helped make it into a pudding, okay? So we got that going on right there. Again, it looks a little grayish because I used the black chia seed versus the white, but it tastes the same. No difference in taste. And then I'll just put maybe a little bit extra peach on top of that. Oops. Just to make it look a little bit prettier. Okay, or you could put a different fruit. You could put like a raspberry or blackberry on top of it. So I would have maybe made it a little prettier, but for me, I'm just going to eat it. Delish. And that's it. So that's a chia seed pudding with poached peaches, easy poached peaches, and beautiful dessert. We can make it look prettier if you wanted to snazz it up, throw something green on it, throw a different color on it if you want it to look like a very beautiful presentation. I'm Jessica from gardenfreshfoodie.com, and I hope to see you in the future.